everyone, I'm Alicia and I make fashion videos and sewing tutorials. So usually I show you guys how to make your own clothes, but in today's video I'm going to be following someone else's sewing tutorial. So I've seen this video pop quite a few times in my recommendations, so today I'm going to be following Lydia Naomi's The sun just decided to come out and completely white now. So today I'm going to be following Lydia Naomi's puff sleeve top tutorial. And I also got my new computer. It's the Dell XPS 13. So let's follow her tutorial together. And of course feel free to follow along and make your own top as well.
Every other little girl in class had puff sleeves. Anne felt that life was really not worth living without puff sleeves.
I like her already.
And without further comment, let's get started.
Let's go. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to need is a men's dress shirt. So the one that I'm going to be using today is this gray men's dress shirt. And it also has some pink little buttons.
I figured I would turn it into a puff sleeve shirt.
Puff sleeve.
I want to make a wrap crop top with large puff sleeves and cuffs. I start by taking apart the shirt. I just cut it apart near the seams.
Okay, so the first thing she does to the shirt is deconstruct it. So I'm gonna cut away the collar, seam rip the sleeves and the cuff, and also separate the front from the back. The part I hate the most about sewing is seam ripping. It takes so much time. Okay, so I separated the front and back, the two sleeves, and cut them open, and also the two cuffs. So let's continue.
For the front and back bodice of the puff sleeve top, I'm using my bodice blocks.
Okay, so for my top pattern, I actually have a bodice pattern that I made from my midi dress tutorial. You can click over here if you want to watch it. So the one that I will be using is this one over here.
To create the wrap overlap, I'm placing the shoulder neck apex along the edge of the button placket and then angling out the block as far as it will go. Because I want a sash on this, I'm gonna reduce the length by 2 inches. So I'm marking 2 inches up from the waist to make room for those front ties. For the back, I'm folding the back shirt in half and tracing out the back bodice. I'm not marking 2 inches up on the back because I'm just gonna leave it long and the front will be the only part that has a sash. For the front tie sash, I'm cutting as much length of doubled 2.5 width strips as I can. So I'm using the bottom of the shirt, the front and back, and also the back yoke for extra length. And I want to double these.
To wrap the shirt around her, she needs like some ties at the waist that she calls a sash. So one side of the sash should be long enough to tie around your whole waist. And then the other side of the sash should be about half the length, is what I understood.
For the puff sleeves, I iron the original shirt sleeves just to make them nice and flat. And then I have chosen an extra fabric.
And I just have the perfect fabric for that. I'm going to be using this pink sheer fabric. And I chose the pink one because they match perfectly the pink buttons on the gray shirt. And to have the puff sleeves with this sort of sheer fabric is going to make them even more flowy.
And I'm going to make an extension, so I'm adding 2 inches to the top and I'm squaring the line down so that Basically, the sleeve is a big square. Cut 4 of these out, so 1 for each side of the sleeve.
Okay, so I cut the bodice pattern, so I have the back and also the 2 front pieces. So the first thing to sew is the darts.
To sew this, you want to pin your front and back darts in place and sew these. To create the back facing, you want to trace the back neckline along the shoulder and the neck and add your neck seam allowance to that. Then mark this width all along the curve of the neckline and cut it out.
So she sews the sash onto the top completely differently than how I usually do it. So usually I sew the waist tight together and then I sew it onto the top, but she sews it onto the top first and then sews both of them together. I don't know if that was clear, but basically we just do it the opposite. So I'm gonna actually try her method this time and see how it goes. So I actually didn't have enough fabric for the sash to tie around my whole waist. She has the entire sash double layered. So what I did is just double layered the front where it's going onto the top. And then the rest, I'm gonna keep it just 1 layer, like that I have enough to go all around me. So I'm going to sew the sash that is double layered first, and then I'm going to attach the rest of it. So now I just have to sew the bottom of the sash. And then next is to sew the upper part of it. So I folded the shirt all the way inside. And once I sew up here, I can flip it over. Wow, it actually worked. That was easier than I thought. Then I'll just do the same thing for the other side.
Turn up the bottom of the back bodice and stitch down to create a clean finished hem. Now what you want to do is take your sleeve triangles, sew them right sides to right sides of either side of the sleeve.
Then it should make a sort of square shape. So right now it's like this, and there's a lot to be gathered, so I'm excited. Okay, so what she actually does first is sew the sleeves and then sew the entire bottom of the sleeve with the side. But because the fabric of my sleeve over here that's going to be sewn is sheer, I want to use a different thread color for it. So I'm going to sew the sleeve together closed first, and also sew the side seam of the shirt and then sew the sleeve onto the shirt. And just to sew it closed, I'm going to face it right sides together and just sew the side seam on top. So now I have the top right sides together. I'm just going to sew the shoulder seams and also the side seams. So here's how my top looks like so far. Okay, now to add the sleeves.
I then created a large stitch on my machine and sewed the top and bottom of the sleeves. Leave the thread long on either side so that you can take one side of the thread, usually the bottom is best, and pull it, and you can just adjust the gather on this.
Here's how my sleeve looks like. Very puffy and flowy. So to attach it to the top, I put the top inside out. Then I'm just going to insert the sleeve inside like that the fabric is right sides together. Adjust the ruffles until they fit the armhole completely, and then you can just in it and sew all around.
The top placket is where the buttonhole is. So you want to match up the buttonhole side to the top overlapping placket. And then just sandwich everything in there, push everything in there about 1/2 inch, pin it in place, and then sew. And that is the last step.
Just like this, and then sew it down. And here is the final sleeve. And the cuff over here has little pink buttons that matches with the pink fabric. So because my 2 front ties are not long enough, I'm going to add these extra pieces of fabric that I cut out. So first I'm just going to hem it. And also the longer strap is where the buttonholes are, and the shorter strap is the one with the buttons. So I folded the edges in of the double-sided one, so there's a little pocket now, and I just insert it inside. So just like this, and then I sew it closed. I'm finally done! So now I'm just gonna go and try it on. Okay, I am in love with this top. Oh my god, look at these sleeves. I really like how the buttons is the same shade as this pink. And it's just so flowy and puffy. You guys know how I love puff sleeves. Almost all of my tutorials have these little puff at the sleeve over here. And if you want to follow the original tutorial, I'm going to put the link in my description down below. And thank you, Lydia Naomi, for your tutorial. And because of that, I was able to make this a wonderful shirt. So yeah, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more DIY fashion and sewing tutorials. And thank you so much for watching. See you all in my next video. Bye!